All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into some fascinating stuff you sent our way. Excerpts from a Vietnamese translation of Will Durant's The Story of Civilization, Our Oriental Heritage.
Wow.
And get this, these excerpts were handpicked by Vietnamese scholar Nguyen Hien.
Oh, interesting.
And he was particularly drawn to the sections about Chinese civilization.
That's fascinating. It's like we're getting a conversation across cultures and time.
Right.
Durant's view of China, but seen through the lens of a Vietnamese intellectual in the mid-20th century.
Exactly. It's a two-for-one deal on historical insights.
I like it.
We're not just uncovering facts about ancient China, but also how those facts resonated with a scholar in Vietnam during a time of major upheaval. What was Nguyen Hien searching for in these pages? What resonated with him? What were the connections he was making?
Good questions. And we'll uncover those as we go. But first, it's important to remember that Durant didn't just read a few books and call it a day.
Right.
He was committed to really deeply understanding Eastern civilizations on their own terms.
Yeah.
He spent years traveling, collaborating with scholars, immersing himself in the culture.
He wasn't an armchair traveler. He was out there experiencing it firsthand.
Exactly.
And you can really feel that dedication to accuracy and respect in his writing.
And that's something that very likely drew Nguyen Hien to his work.
For sure.
And we also need to remember that Nguyen Hien wasn't just passively reading Durant.
Right.
He was having a dialogue with the text, pulling out direct quotes, adding his own analysis, really grappling with those ideas.
He was highlighting those aha moments, the ones that transcend the time and place.
Exactly.
Right.
And where better to begin than with the foundation of Chinese civilization, its philosophical tapestry.
Okay, let's unravel that tapestry.
So Durant lays out how during a period of intense social and political change, China sees the rise of three major schools of thought: Confucianism, Taoism, and Mohism.
Okay.
Each offering a distinct way of understanding the world and humanity's place in it.
Let's break those down a bit. Confucianism, with its focus on social order, moral virtue, family, those time-honored traditions.
Yes.
I love that story Durant tells about the Duke asking Confucius about proper burial rituals.
Oh, yeah, it's a great one.
Well,
It shows how Confucianism wasn't just some abstract philosophy. It provided guidance for everyday life.
right, it's about those details that hold society together.
Exactly. And then we have Taoism, which emphasizes harmony with nature, simplicity, and that intriguing idea of wu wei, or non-action.
Letting go and going with the flow.
You could say that Durant actually compares the writings of Zhuangzi, a prominent Taoist, to Rousseau and Voltaire,
Wow, boy.
highlighting the poetic and even satirical elements of Taoism.
Interesting how these seemingly different ideas connect across cultures and time periods.
It is fascinating. But wait, we can't forget Mohism. It may not be as well known as Confucianism or Taoism, but it's incredibly significant.
Right.
Mohism emphasizes universal love pacifism and finding practical solutions to social problems.
Practical solutions, that's key.
Durant points out Mozi's critique of extravagant spending, a really interesting contrast to the lavishness we often associate with ancient empires.
Focusing on what truly matters. Getting back to basics.
Yes. And as we explore these philosophies, think about which one speaks to you the most. What can we even today learn from these different approaches to life?
It's amazing how relevant these ancient ideas still are.
Absolutely.
It's incredible how these philosophies still resonate today. But Durant doesn't just focus on ideas. He paints such a vivid picture of Chinese art and innovation.
He was clearly drawn to the beauty and ingenuity of it all. Like when he talks about painting in China, it wasn't just about aesthetics.
Right.
It was deeply connected to poetry and philosophy.
Each brushstroke infused with deeper meaning.
Exactly. And he points out this distinction between the northern and southern schools of painting.
Oh, yeah.
The northern school grand landscapes, capturing the awe-inspiring power of nature.
Towering mountains, cascading waterfalls, that kind of thing.
Yes. Scenes that evoke a sense of majesty.
And the Southern school was more about those intimate moments.
Right. Exactly. Like a glimpse of a hummingbird flitting between blossoms or bamboo swaying in the wind.
So much more delicate.
Yes. But both schools embraced symbolism and suggestion. They left space for the viewer to complete the picture, to bring their own interpretations and emotions.
Like that story Durant tells about the horse stepping on flowers.
Yes.
It's not meant to be literal. It's about the ephemeral nature of beauty, the passage of time.
Exactly. Those subtle nuances make Chinese art so captivating.
And speaking of captivating, Durant's discussion of Chinese pottery, he makes it clear that in China, this wasn't just craft.
It was high art.
It reminds me of those stunning porcelain pieces you see in museums.
Precisely. Chinese porcelain. Those delicate forms, the intricate designs, that luminous glaze, it captivated the world.
It did.
Durant emphasizes the significance of celadon, that distinctive pale green glaze that was so highly prized.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Imagine those early trade routes laden with these precious porcelains, making their way across continents.
Spreading beauty and craftsmanship.
It's incredible to think about their impact, bridging cultures. But Durant acknowledges that this golden age didn't last forever.
Right. Even the most renowned art forms are subject to changing tastes.
Exactly. He points to a few factors. European powers started producing their own porcelain, often imitating Chinese designs.
Oh, wow.
And of course, tastes change, both within China and globally. It's a good reminder that even in art, global forces and economic realities have a huge influence.
It makes you wonder what those early artisans would think.
Right, to see their designs reinterpreted all over the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
But let's shift gears from art to innovation. Because China's contributions there are game-changing.
Absolutely. Durant meticulously outlines those innovations. Printing gunpowder, the compass, paper money. He's clearly impressed.
As he should be. They're incredible. Just think, a world without printing.
Right. The spread of knowledge would have been so much slower.
And gunpowder, for better or worse, it transformed warfare.
It did. And the compass, opening up exploration,
That's right.
connecting distant lands.
And paper money changed economic systems completely.
Exactly. These innovations didn't just impact China. They transformed the world, spreading along trade routes, reaching every corner of the globe.
It's amazing when you think about it. We take these things for granted. But their origins can be traced back centuries to the ingenuity of Chinese inventors.
It highlights how interconnected our world is. And as much as Durant is impressed by these advancements, he doesn't forget about the everyday lives of the people.
Right. He wants to understand the fabric of Chinese society.
And where better to start than agriculture?
The foundation of it all.
Exactly. He emphasizes the ingenuity and resilience of Chinese farmers. They face so many challenges. Floods, droughts, bandits.
They had to be resourceful.
They were masters of adaptation, irrigation systems, crop rotation, collective defense. They found solutions.
Making the most of what they had. And they weren't just focused on survival. They cultivated things that would shape the world.
You're right. Tea, rice, silk. These weren't just crops. They were woven into the fabric of Chinese culture. And they had this huge impact on global trade.
It's incredible how something like tea can connect us to centuries of history.
It is. And Durant was also captivated by those bustling Chinese cities, centers of commerce and culture.
He describes cities like Hangzhou, with its infrastructure, markets, guilds. He was clearly impressed by how sophisticated and organized it all was.
He was. And it's interesting to compare the organization of Chinese cities to European cities of that time.
Right. Were there any similarities?
Well, Hangzhou, with its markets, canals, and guilds, actually have elements that we often associate with the much later Industrial Revolution in Europe. It makes you think about our assumptions about how different parts of the world developed.
It's a good reminder that history is full of surprises. But this seemingly self-contained world was about to undergo a huge shift. Durant takes us to a key moment, the period of increasing contact with the West.
And he uses the iconic story of Marco Polo to illustrate this encounter.
Marco Polo. His name is synonymous with adventure.
Exactly. And his experiences in the court of Kublai Khan, they give us a glimpse into this era of cultural exchange.
Right.
His tales of Chinese traditions, their technologies, the sheer scale of the empire, they captivated European audiences.
Although I always wonder how much was exaggeration.
You're right to be skeptical. Durant acknowledges that when Polo returned to Europe, many people doubted his stories.
They didn't believe him.
They found his descriptions of grand cities, incredible inventions, a society that seemed to function so efficiently. Well, a bit hard to swallow.
I guess seeing is believing. But even if some details were embellished, those stories planted seeds of curiosity.
They did. And those initial encounters eventually led to more sustained contact, though not always with positive outcomes.
Right. Durant doesn't shy away from the darker side of the story.
He doesn't. He leads us into the Opium Wars and that growing Western influence, or maybe intrusion is a better word, in China.
It's a reminder that even the most enduring civilizations can be vulnerable.
It is a sobering thought.
The decline of the Qing dynasty, the exploitation of China's resources, those unequal treaties, it's a difficult period to revisit.
It is, but it's essential for understanding modern Chinese history.
It was such a time of upheaval, and it really set the stage for a whole new chapter.
A chapter marked by turmoil and transformation.
And in the middle of all this, we see someone like Sun Yat-sen emerge. He dared to envision a new China. His story is fascinating.
It really is, especially when you consider how his early life shaped his worldview. His exposure to Christianity, his Western education, those experiences planted the seeds for his revolutionary ideas.
It's like he was trying to bridge these worlds, right? Trying to find a new path for China.
Yeah, exactly. And his ideas resonated with a growing number of people in China. People who were tired of foreign influence, who were ready for something new.
Yeah.
His call for nationalism, democracy, people's livelihood, his three principles, they really captured the hopes of a nation that was longing for change.
It's a powerful message, and one that ultimately helped bring about the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911.
Right.
Which, wow, talk about a turning point.
Huge.
This wasn't just one dynasty replacing another. This was the end of an era, the beginning of a new China.
It really was a pivotal moment. It makes you think about the parallels to what was happening in Europe centuries earlier, with the Renaissance and the Reformation.
Well, that's interesting. Both of those were times of huge intellectual and cultural shifts, right? Challenging old ways of thinking, embracing new ideas.
Exactly. You had this incredible clash between tradition and modernity. And in China's case, it wasn't just about religion. It was about redefining their entire society, rethinking what it meant to be Chinese in a world that was changing so rapidly.
And honestly, building a new China from scratch, that was never going to be easy.
Oh, of course not.
They had so many challenges, internal divisions, political instability, not to mention the ever-present influence of foreign powers.
It really shows you that revolution is just the first step in a much longer and more complex process.
And that journey continues to this day. I mean, China's still grappling with these questions of identity, modernity, and its place in the world.
Absolutely.
It reminds us that history isn't just something we read about in textbooks. Right. It's a living process that continues to shape our world in countless ways.
I completely agree. And it brings us back to those excerpts chosen by Nguyen Hien.
Yeah.
As we've journeyed through Chinese history and culture, we've seen these echoes of Vietnam's own struggles for independence, for modernization, for self-determination.
It's almost like he was using Durant's work as a way to understand his own country's journey.
Exactly. Remember, Nguyen Hien was living through a time of immense change in Vietnam, and he saw the parallels between China's experiences and the challenges his own nation was facing.
So he wasn't just reading about China's past. He was looking for insights, for guidance, trying to make sense of the forces shaping Vietnam's future.
Absolutely. And that's what's so amazing about engaging with history this way. It's not just about dates and names.
Right.
It's about connecting with those human experiences across time and cultures, using the past to better understand the present.
It makes you wonder, what conclusions did Nguyen Hien draw from all of this? How did he apply those lessons to Vietnam? We may never know for sure, but we can appreciate his deep engagement with these ideas.
I agree. And for us, this deep dive has given us a richer and more nuanced understanding of Chinese civilization. Seeing it through Durant's Western lens and then through Nguyen Hien Vietnamese perspective, it highlights how important it is to consider multiple viewpoints when we're trying to understand history.
It reminds us that history is never just one story. It's a tapestry of interpretations, experiences, and voices.
Exactly. So as you continue to explore history and the world around you, remember to look for those multiple perspectives, those unexpected connections. You never know what you might discover.
And if this conversation has sparked your curiosity, if you're eager to learn more, don't stop here. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep those aha moments coming.